Alrighty, guys, if you have seen the Daredevil Born Again trailer, not even any episode in particular, just if you have seen the Daredevil Born Again trailer, this segment will contain 0 spoilers for Daredevil Born Again. If you haven't seen the trailer, though, I suppose this is a massive spoiler, but the title and the thumbnail should have probably given away what we're going to talk about. So, again, I'm not going to spoil anything in this segment in particular that has been in the episodes themselves, just going to talk about what we know from the trailer. So if you don't want to know about that, but you clicked on this video somehow, then I guess it's, time to click away. But anyways, let's get into this. So Punisher is going to make his return in Daredevil Born Again. And Punisher, right, a character that debuted in Daredevil Season 2, he gained such a following in terms of people, really liking him, not liking necessarily what he did, but just, being a compelling character, that he spawned 2 separate seasons of Netflix television after or during Daredevil, with characters like Karen Page showing up in those seasons as well. And Ben Barnes, was it, who played Jigsaw? I think that was, Ben Barnes, super underrated actor. Anyways. So Punisher, and when Daredevil Born Again was announced, people were wondering, okay, so if Charlie Cox, Vincent D'Onofrio, who else could we bring back? Could it be Jon Bernthal? And the initial indications didn't really seem to say as much, right? People were, when they were originally shooting the show, it didn't seem like that Punisher had a big presence in the show, if at all. And so there were rumors that Jon Bernthal would be coming back, but nobody really knew. Then there were reports that Jon Bernthal had signed on, and momentarily after that, it was revealed that Daredevil Born Again was kind of being retooled and not scrapped, but reworked. And now we have a little bit more insight into what all the behind the scenes of that process was, or at least the decision, the reasoning that Jon Bernthal gives about returning to Daredevil Born Again, and also some insights into the previously discussed Punisher special presentation that's going to come out next year. That is going to be written, I believe, and produced by Jon Bernthal himself as Punisher. So let's first talk about Jon Bernthal's quotes about returning to Daredevil Born Again. So in this first quote, he's talking about what, the original version before they retooled and reworked the scripts and the production for Daredevil Born Again. He's talking about that. So he says, quote, "Ultimately, I didn't see it. I didn't see this version of Frank, and what they wanted from Frank didn't really make sense to me, and I thought it wouldn't appeal to the fans and wouldn't be congruent. It was not something I was really interested in doing, so we had to walk away." Then he talks about the process of being brought back, and he says, quote, "They really brought me into that conversation. We really got specific about where Frank is psychologically, where Frank is physically." Okay, so first of all, before we even get to the quotes about Punisher's special presentation, this, to me, shows how not on board these actors were in the original version, right? And it seems like they did keep a decent chunk of that original version in here. I think a lot of the legal procedural stuff was worked around for sure, right? With Hector Ayala, and I would suspect that fight scene at the end of episode 2 was part of the new version. But I think that a lot of it was reworked. But I think that some of the original show was kept. But it's interesting because whatever they did, if it was part of the original version of the show, or if it's part of the new version, they were able to seamlessly weave things in to where to where things feel like they're all one congruent story, right? But it's interesting that I guess in the original version, they really did want to have Punisher show up, and Jon Bernthal was like, "No, I'm not doing it because this version of Frank isn't what I want." And it's interesting because Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, who play Daredevil and Kingpin, were also recently quoted as saying, well, we were nervous about the version of the show that they were making. But they said, and I'm not saying that Jon Bernthal isn't a team player, he would have been a guest actor. So it's his choice, right? He's not leading the show. The show doesn't crumble with or without Punisher. Although it's great to see Punisher again, as we saw in the trailers. But Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox were like, yeah, we were nervous about it, but we were team players, so we were going to make the best out of that situation. Jon Bernthal, I get it that it's on a different level. He's like, well, if they want me to just come in for a few episodes, but I'm going to be this character that I don't really recognize, then why would I do it? So I think that really goes to show how much they actually did retool, because some people were wondering, and I was wondering, was it just the first episode that they kind of retooled? And that's not a spoiler for the first episode, just it's kind of obvious what one of the significant changes was from the first episode. But, it's interesting, right? I think that this is all interesting. But then he goes on, so this is all bouncing off of that, to talk about his involvement with the special presentation that's coming out next year. He says, quote, "The story that we've laid out is, I think, really special. It's the visceral, psychologically complex, unforgiving, no-holds-barred version of Frank, where he's going to turn his back to the audience. And nothing is easy, and all violence has a cost. And we're going to see that cost. I'm grateful that they're letting me go to the places that I really want to go." This, to me, shows that we're getting back on track with whatever, version of Daredevil was happening before and whatever is happening now. I think that this is clearly back on track. Again, I haven't been, how do I put this? I'm liking Daredevil Born Again. I am. I'm not in love with the show as I was with the first couple seasons and with the first, iteration of Daredevil on Netflix, but I'm really liking it. And I think I'm really liking more so the direction that they're heading, right? More so than some of the things in the episodes right now. And to me, this shows they know exactly, the people who are behind it, including Jon Bernthal, including Charlie Cox, know what they have to do, because the thing about Punisher, right, is it's not just violence for the sake of violence. It shouldn't be. Punisher is saying, Jon Bernthal is saying, this violence in this special presentation has a cost, and we're going to really play out that cost. What does it mean for Frank to commit all this violence? So I think it's interesting, and I'm very curious. I am very curious to see what this special presentation turns into, because again, it's an opportunity to tell a story in a very succinct amount of time, and we'll see where we go from there. Guys, what do you think about these comments from Jon Bernthal about his return as Punisher and also the Punisher special presentation? Let me know in the comments down below.